Hi, my name's Jess and I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is March 30th of 2020. I have a sponsor, and Parkrest is my home group. Um, I'm like such a loud, obnoxious person, but this always makes me so nervous. So, we're just gonna do it. Um, Gosh, like what a wild experience, I guess. I just picked up 6 years, and if you would have told me that these days were going to turn into years, I just wouldn't have believed you. It's just like, I feel like I've been telling people, like, God, like people that don't work a program, I'm like, I have 6 years sober, like for real, like no alcohol, no drugs. And people are just like, and I'm like, they obviously they're not as blown away as me, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, um, our experience, strength, and hope. What it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. I'm so emotional this week, and it's so annoying because I would say that I'm aggressive and hardcore, and I don't have emotions, but I'm like, come to find out, I guess I'm just a real emotional girl. And that just tells you, like, 6 years in, I still have a problem with vulnerability, because it's like hard for me to say that. Anyways, okay. Well, I was born. That's where it started. I was born to two kids who got pregnant, and the solution was to get married. My dad joined the military, and here I came. Um, I am the oldest of three. I always feel like it's important to say this. I'm not near smart enough to know whether this thing, like, we have this genetic, predisposition, or if environment plays a part in whether we become like real alcoholics or not. What I can tell you is that me, my brother, and sister were all raised in the same household by the same parents. We experienced very similar um, trauma. And My sister is normal as far as substances go. She never touched a drug in her life, has a couple sips of alcohol, and is like, this is just she just does not want to feel different. My brother, God willing, maybe he'll make it to these rooms someday, but he seems to pay like his bills and do things. That was not my experience. And then according to the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am a real alcoholic. I have this obsession to drink and use all the time. And then as soon as I put a substance in my body, I cannot stop. And no one or nothing really says like when that's going to happen, not even myself. And so that's like a wild experience. Um, Childhood was weird. Whose isn't, I guess. My dad was a really angry guy. My mom was detached, not present. I think that was probably her way of coping. And my dad, I don't know, like drugs were not, if they were in my household, I don't remember it. Alcohol was there, but I wouldn't say that that is like, I didn't associate like my dad drinking with him being mean. He was a really mean guy all the time, and no one was really spared of that. So we didn't go to school as kids. We were just living life, I guess. And so there was nothing for me to really like bounce off of, like what is normal. Like we were just doing life, and that was just what we were doing. And it wasn't until I was 11 when we moved to Missouri that I had kind of like was introduced to society. So it was like, hey, like you're gonna go to school. And I realized pretty quickly in going to school that, like, I don't know, a lot of people say they had this feeling of feeling different growing up. I guess I didn't really have anything to compare it to. So I don't know that I felt different. I can say that I was very scared, that my childhood was scary and that life was scary at home and that we weren't supposed to talk about that. And so when I got to school, it was very much like, hush, hush. We don't show emotions. We don't really talk about what's going on here. I realized, oh, other people aren't doing what we're doing at our house. And so I don't know, it just was like that was the first time I realized like no, I didn't feel different. Like it was different for compared to what, not everybody, but at least the households that I was seeing. um So I always tell this story just because when I moved to Missouri, there was these three boys that came, brothers. They lived behind me. They had invited me down to some water sewer pipe things. I don't know, those like underground cement things that go under the ground. And they busted out a cigarette and they were like, "Do you smoke?" And I was 11. I was like, "Yeah, obviously." And so I took a drag off this cigarette, and that is the first time that I experienced a head change with like a substance. And I know that sounds so silly because it was a cigarette, but that was like, that is ingrained in my mind that like, that was my first head change, was a cigarette. And it wasn't like I was like straight to that, to what life took me. But that was just like my introduction to it. My first drink was not in, not until, not until sixth grade. Um, me and a couple of girls from school. So obviously I wasn't the only one doing this because they were partaking too. But anyways, their parents went out of town. Her brother was supposed to be watching us. We had some peppermint schnapps and water was my first drink. And what I can tell you about that experience is that feeling that I felt, that like I can't take a breath. I'm holding my breath. I'm always wanting to, I'm always like, I had some drinks and that was like, like, oh man, I've heard somebody say like, I've been needing this drink for a while. And it was like, I wasn't scared anymore. I didn't give a shit anymore. I felt that ease and comfort that it talks about. And again, not immediately like we're going to do this every day, but I mean, I clearly drank a lot. And the next day I felt sick. We told our parents we were food poisoned by Pizza Hut. And what I did know though is, and even at that age, and that's so crazy because I have a kid and I just think to myself at that age to be having these thoughts of like, yeah, I feel like shit, but like, God, the fact that I could feel that way, it was like so freaking worth it. And pretty quickly, also newsflash, substances are a big part of my story. If that offends you, I'm sorry. But it says I'm supposed to share my experience, and that's my experience. What I will say is it started with alcohol and it ended with alcohol. I used a lot of things in between there to enhance my experience. But so sixth grade, junior high comes. I start smoking pot pretty quickly because I have a friend who has an older sister. I start dabbling with some pharmaceuticals. And then around like ninth grade, I discover hallucinogenics and my mind is like opened. Like we're searching for this solution, even from a young age. It's so crazy. If I can really be honest and look back, like I was always looking for a solution. And like what it came in was substances, but it's like I'm like having these experiences and I'm searching, like I'm just looking for something that's going to make me feel better. The problem is all of it was just so temporary. Because like all of that wears off and then it's like, here I am again, uncomfortable. My dad was in the military, as I had mentioned. So he's deployed most of this time. I didn't have most of the time, all the time. It was like, I don't know, most of us are old enough, the Twin Tower thing. So he went away. He was gone for years. And again, my mom is just like not present. So she's not really caring what's going on. So I'm running amok. Like I'm doing whatever. Like I'm like not wearing shoes. I've got like Grateful Dead posters on my wall. I'm like bathing with patchouli. Like it's like we're living a life. And my dad comes home from deployment and he's not cool with what I've got going. Like he's like fresh out of war and I'm doing what I'm doing. And we have an altercation. I'm like 16. We have an altercation. He let me know that that's the way things were going to be now that he was home and I could follow those rules or I could go. And I left. And I moved in with my boyfriend. And that is when my alcoholism went from like finding it when I could get it. Because like two different things happened too when I enter my boyfriend at the time's home. One, they're like a family. Like they have like a mom and a dad and they like love each other and they like kiss their kid and they work these jobs and it's like functioning. And on the flip side of that, they are I mean, heavy drinkers is what our book says. I mean, they're drinking all the time. They're drinking with their son, whom is 19. I'm 16. And they're letting me drink. So I have like open access at this point in time to alcohol. So what happens for someone like me is it's like off to the freaking races. I can drink all the time. I can drink in the morning. I can drink at night. It doesn't matter. There's like zero. I mean, there's accountability to an extent, but it's like they're also drinking. I don't know. It was just like weird. I have some run-ins. Like there were some signs early off that like this thing you're doing is not gonna work. You know what I mean? I'm like getting my face bit off by dogs and like I'm wrecking vehicles and like there's just like a lot going on. But it gets still fun. And so my first interaction with law enforcement, I'm 17. Some girls at us are pre-gaming. That's all I remember is pre-gaming. Here's the other thing, and I don't know what makes some of us blackout drinkers and not. I can maybe count on a few hands of when I'm remembering what's going on when I'm drinking. It's black for me, and I don't know what makes some of us blackout drinkers. Like very rarely am I like waking up, which makes it so weird in itself that I kept doing it. I don't even remember what's happening. But I just don't remember. And that's just such a weird thing. And so what had happened was we pre-gamed, and then I remember waking up and we're like in, the cement box with the doorbell, and you ring it and they're like, "Good morning, Miss Brown." I said, "What's up? Where am I?" And they said, "You're in jail." And I like had no clue what happened. They had like given me this fan of tickets. And what had happened was, I left, I guess, an apartment. Chessa was there. It was so weird. We all end up back in these rooms. I left in my vehicle. I crashed into a stoplight. Pole fell on my car, blew out all my windows. I proceeded to drive that wrecked vehicle into a DWI checkpoint where I booped into the people patiently waiting to get through that checkpoint in my wrecked ass car. And according to the police report, I was just really there to pick up my friends, is what I told them. So I wrecked my car. I have a spread of tickets. And I called my boyfriend at the time. I was like, "I need you to come get me from jail, wherever that is." And he came and got me, and you would think I would have been terrified. You would have thought I would have been like, "Oh my gosh, that was crazy. I can't do that anymore." And maybe it's because I was young. I don't know. But like never once was I like, "Man, you can't do that anymore, girl." I mean, it was just like, that was crazy, and just like kept going. So that's like interaction number one with law enforcement. And then me and that boyfriend part ways. I would think after like years of me being able to see what facts for facts is that I was ready to go down a path that he just probably wasn't ready to go down with me. I mean, there's the facts. I would have told you something different when we broke up, but I mean, the facts are that I was fully committed. I don't even know if committed. I was doing it. I mean, I was in whether I wanted to be or not. And there he is. Very shortly after, you know the one, the guy, my knight in shining armor. He is 8 years older than me. He's married, going through a divorce. He has 2 kids, and most importantly, he drinks and uses the way that I do. So there is zero accountability there. I move him. Well, he was homeless too, so I moved him in to my apartment, my very first little apartment I had, and I moved him in. And God, I just had this like delusional idea that we were gonna like play house or something. That like he was gonna come in and like he had the kids, and I don't freaking know, man. And we did not play house. What had happened was very quickly into that relationship, he put his hands on me. And let me preface this by saying no one should ever put their hands on anyone, period. But I was not like an innocent bystander in that relationship. I can look back and see that I contributed a lot of chaos to all that. Does that mean I deserve to have hands put on me? No. But I can just say there was a time where it was like he was bad, I was good. And it just wasn't quite as simple as that. He also obviously clearly had this thing, and that again doesn't justify behavior, but in being in these rooms, I've met a lot of people that, have done that and aren't doing that anymore. And like, we're just really sick people. And so the lightheartedness that was going on with my addiction takes a pretty dark turn at that point in time. That like line we have for ourselves that we say we're never going to do, right? Like I'm never going to do this or I'm this. Like I have this idea of who I don't want to be or what I don't want to be. And that is just like being pushed back further and further and further. Um, and um, and like these other fears that I have, I don't ever want to be like my mom, but I'm like with a guy like my dad. Like all these things I swear I'll never do. I'm doing. I'm putting needles in my arm. I'm introducing methamphetamine pretty quickly, and boy, you want to skyrocket your alcoholism. Whew, meth will do it, buddy. It that house, that apartment that we were living in, I mean, that's gone. We don't have any money to pay our bills. You know what I mean? Every ounce of money that I have is going towards drugs and alcohol. I'm unemployable because I can't show up to work. And if I am, I'm under the influence. And so what does one do when they don't have any income? They find their own income, and that looked like committing crimes for me. And so it's not like I ever had intentions of hurting anyone. Like, do we not ever? Even though, as the book says, even though, our intentions are good. I'm robbing people. I'm, doing what we do. I'm in survival mode. I'm doing whatever I have to do to get that next thing. And that, like, and I'm even saying, like, I'm even like offended that you're upset with my behavior. Like, I'm like, I'm not trying, you know what I mean? Like, whoa. And the other crazy part is, of all of these times I'm going, because I mean, my criminal charges vary from threat to place a bomb, to, tampering, to, possession and comment. I mean, it's just like we can talk about that at a different time. There's no need for me to go through that list. I'm just saying it's a wide span of crimes I'm committing. And every time I'm going before the judge, never once can I say I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict. I have a problem. I'm in such denial that I'm like, I'm just hanging out with some real bad people. I have this really bad influence in my life. This guy, man, if you only knew. That's my excuse. Like, that's the delusion I'm living in, is like, I don't have a problem with this. I'm just like doing this. The problem is I keep getting in trouble. That's the main problem, that we're having currently, Your Honor. And so we live this, dude, 9 years, almost 8 years, 8 years we're doing this thing. And so like we're staying at, Fairview Studios and the Budget Inn. They tore that down because it's so classy, and just like different areas that I'm staying at and different people I'm hanging out with. And his grandparents had given us this shot. How people try to help us. They'd given us this shot, and they get us into a duplex in Sparta. They're like, we're going to get you kids a house, and we're going to get you better. I'm on house arrest at the time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're going to get you guys all set up, and everything's going to be fine. And we're going to get you a job. And it was just like, people believe, why? I don't know. It's heartbreaking, but like, they really want us to be better, and we just don't give a shit. It's so crazy. And even if we do give a shit, it's like we don't even have the ability at that time, I don't even think, to tap into that thought process. I mean, there's the reality. I don't even have the ability to feel any sort of emotion in regards to like my behavior or others trying to help me. It's wild. And so they like give us this shot, and they get this thing, and we're there for a while. And I guess No, I'm not on house arrest yet. So what had happened was, I had gone in a little altercation. So there had been some years where was supposed to be on paper. I absconded, so I'm not reporting to my probation officer. And so there's some years that go in between there. And I had an altercation at the case. There's 2 cases in Sparta for anyone that's there. I don't know why they did. That's so weird. But anyways, I'm at one of the cases in Sparta, and I had a little boop into somebody, and I had given them some false information, and I went home, and I guess it had been like a while longer, a little later, not long. My ex's daughter, who lived with us at the time, the doorbell rang. It was before school, and she's like, Mom, there's a troopa here. And I'm like, oh shit. And I did like the old blind peek. And there they were in the flesh. And so I went down there and he ran my name and he's like, are you aware you got 7 warrants out for your arrest? I said, and here's the other part. Isn't it funny? Anytime I would get arrested, I'd be like, what? Like, I couldn't even believe me. Like, I was just, every time played that card and they were like, you're so, and I'm like crying in the car, like, anyways, but I did the old, like, you're kidding me. And they weren't. So I like did my county hopping, like where you have to like, you guys know, you gotta be released from a county just to go to the next county. Then insanity. Anyways, so I did that whole deal and I get out and then I'm on house arrest. And so I have this stint of time, several months where I'm incarcerated. I am separated from drugs and alcohol. And in that time, I am like, I want to change. I don't want to do this anymore. There was a few times in my using and drinking where I can remember feeling that feeling. And that was one of those times. And like, I really believed it. I thought like, when I get out, I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be better. The church people were coming in like from, you know what I mean? And I'm like, believing it and like really thinking that it's going to happen for me. And I get released and it's just like it's just like it never was like like distance from the substance doesn't matter. If I'm not working a program and I don't have a God, it just doesn't matter. You can put as much time between me and my drink as you want, but if there's no like active solution, active program, active thing that I'm doing, for me, it doesn't matter. And so I start doing what I'm doing. I'm able to complete probation because back then they didn't test for buprenorphine on the UAs, and so I was like shooting subs, somehow coasting through my probation, which is so crazy. So that very first boyfriend I have that I moved in with his parents, we were together. He had cancer. He was in remission. He ended up getting it again. Right? Getting it again. Is that how you would say it? Getting cancer again, whatever. Anyways, he died is what had happened. And that was, I tell you this because this is the chain of events. He dies in April. May, no different thing than normal. I get my ass beat like I did quite frequently. And for some reason I decided that night was the night I was going to leave. And so I waited until he fell asleep. Because that is the way that I had to leave. And I remember telling those kids that I believed in the moment I was like raising, bye. And I left and I showed up at my sister's and her husband's house, beat up and drunk, and told her I was leaving, which I had done before. And usually I woke up the next morning and after a nice night's sleep, was ready to go back. And for some reason, I would assume we're going to call it God, higher power, whatever you want to say. I didn't go back that time. And so I am at my sister and her husband's house. I turn off the phone. I turn off everything. I go into hiding. You do what you have to do when you leave a relationship like that. And I'm like hiding. And what I did was, I told my sister, who was just so desperate for me to get better and was so desperate for me to get away from the guy that was dragging me down. I told her that I needed some drinks to kind of coast through. I need some cigarettes. She bought me a cart of cigarettes and some drinks. And that lasted from May of 2016 until August. So I'm in pretty much a blackout. We're going to say that. My sister, which is supposed to be like this time where she's getting like me back, I would say. She just wanted that so bad. She had been praying to her God for so long for me to come back. And I am back. And she refers to that as the summer from hell, literally, is what that was. And something else that I had realized in that moment is that person, the reason why I was behaving the way I was behaving, he's actually not here anymore. You know that old saying that everywhere you go, there you are. And there I was drinking and carrying on the same way that I had been my whole life. And August of 2016, my sister had enough. And she had laid out some options. I mean, let's put it here. I'm stealing my sister's car to go hang out with a dude that lives in a tent. Like, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at in life. You know what I mean? That's who's hanging out with this girl. And so one morning I come out, and like, isn't it funny how we can justify our drinking? So I used to buy like those little American honey shooters. Also, shout out to the girl with the fireball earrings today. That's so hilarious. I used to buy those little American honey shooters, but I would buy them in like like the packages of like 2. And so, like, why does that make us feel better? We're so insane. But I'm like, doesn't matter. You know, you're having to like swim through the bottles, but I'm not buying a big one, so it doesn't matter. Anyways, I was like doing my thing in the shower that morning as I do with my little shooters. And I like come out. And there's this guy standing in the kitchen. And I'm like, ooh, gross. Cause I'm like puking, like dying in the shower, and I come out and this guy's smiling ear to ear, just so happy to see me. And at this point in time, I'm not allowed to be left unattended as an adult woman. So I am with my sister and her husband, said guy, smiling man, and me and my sister in the back seat, and we're driving them to the airport because they're getting ready to travel. And he was kind of like laughing at me, and like coming to find out it's because like we laugh, like, I mean, we're the only ones that get it, and I'll never forget him like asked me if I want to get sober and like kind of like doing that, and like part of me was like not in the mood to hear I'm like coming to, and the other part is just like I just like the same thing, the same thing that people are trying to do is save and help and do the thing. But I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, talking about my brother or my sister and her husband, don't get it. I get it. And I was like, okay. And that person continued to reach out to me, and that person took me to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. And as Christine said, I think I was as honest as I was capable of. I don't know. I just don't know. It's like when you're ready, you're ready. And I think I was saying what I thought you wanted to hear, and I was doing what I thought, and I was doing the things. I mean, I was like picking up the chips, and doing the things, reading the book, not being honest. That's what I was not doing. Rigorous honesty is what this book says we have to do, and I was not doing that. That is for sure. And then my sponsor just made a few subtle suggestions, things like, work the steps, pray, do these things. Maybe don't enter into a relationship for the first year so you can focus on yourself. So I went and got knocked up instead. And the gentleman that knocked me up was also in the program, knocked me up. There he is, folks. Yeah, he's looking around. I just one time, man. This one time we moved this one mattress, and there she was. I will tell you what happened when I got pregnant. I went into the most fear I've ever been in my whole life. I decided right then and there that the resentment, one of my biggest fears was being trapped and controlled. And I had concocted the story that he did that on purpose, and he was trying to trap and control me. And I went into deep fear and resentment, and I stopped working a program because I was mad at whatever was going on. And I was blaming. And I was dry. And this book says that there's no middle of the road solution. My experience is I'm working a program or I am drinking, and I am very miserable when I'm in between there. And I was blessed enough to stay sober during my pregnancy, but as soon as I had her, boy, I started planning my next drink. The book says that sometimes it like just pops up on us, the old relapse. I planned mine. I knew I was going to be drinking, and I had the perfect excuse. That was my brother's wedding, and I situated everything just so. Made sure Adam for sure was not going to be there. Because that was accountability. And I drank. And what I had thought was going to happen is I was going to have some drinks. And what had happened when my dad was like, let me. What happened when me and my dad took that shot together was I was like, that feeling that we get. And it was the same thing that I had gotten with the very first drink I ever took. And it was like, oh, just that relief. I just planned on having some drinks and having a good time. This is, story and story again. It picks up right where we left off. And so what had happened that night is I went into a blackout like I do with my 3-month-old daughter. I barricaded us in the nursery, and her dad had to call the cops on me. And if you would have told me that was the mom I was going to be, that I was going to do these things I wouldn't have thought so. You know what I mean? But that's just how powerless I really am over this alcohol, is that like not this wee little baby that I love so much can keep me sober, and not the grandma that's trying to help me, and not the man that's nice to me, none of these things, not the house, that doesn't have the chaos in it. Like none of these things are going to keep me sober. None of that has enough power. And so I wish I could say that I was like, man, again, like, gosh, I'm not going to do that anymore. I did wake up with that incomprehensible demoralization, because there's also two parts to my drinking. There's the first part where I don't give a shit. And then there's the second part where I have things suddenly. I have a kid, and I have a man that's good to me, and I have a home, and I have a car, and I have all of these things that I thought that I needed in order to be able to live this beautiful, sober life. And it didn't keep me sober. I will say that's when I first tried to start controlling my drinking, or at least controlling what you were thinking of my drinking. And that is so miserable for an alcoholic not to drink the way they want to drink. Ooh, I was a mean woman. And so this goes on for several years, and I get so miserable. And like, thank God I never got pulled over with my daughter in my car, because I should have. I was drinking and driving all the time with my kid, you guys. Thank God I never wrecked, with her in my car, why some of this happens to some, specifically with our children. Like, why does some of us have to experience this and some of us experience this? And I don't know what that is. What I do know is that I'm just super grateful, that my story played out the way that it did. And that's really all I can do. So one night I'm drinking and obviously, and I had called Ashley, because I'm separated apart. And Ashley had said to several times I would call her like throughout my drinking, and I'd just be like, and she'd be like, maybe you could be alcoholism. And I'm like, mm-mm. And I also was like, I like praised what you guys were doing. I was like, AA is a fantastic program. You guys are such good people. I love what you guys are doing. It is not for me. Until it was. And so no different. I had been so much lower. And that's the thing about bottoms, man. What the fuck? I've been homeless. The list is endless of what I had been, and what I was then was not near situationally what I had been in the past. And yet in my inside, I was the most sick and lonely, and just, I can't even explain it to you. I just white flag, I can't do this anymore. I'm so done. And as was mentioned, it's the midst of COVID. What were we thinking, those of us who got sober during COVID? But I made a phone call. And what do Alcoholics Anonymous, what does Alcoholics Anonymous do? They show up. And so here she came with her laptop and her big book, and she was like, this is what we're doing. We're doing Zoom now. And I was like, woo, I don't know, like scared, because I know I'm scared. It's scary. Getting sober is scary, guys. You don't know what it is. I don't know. I didn't know what it was until I knew. I don't even think I still know sometimes. But she showed up, and we got this program, and like, we have this Zoom, and this is what we're doing, because we're not doing in-person meetings. And that's the other thing I realized, like, God gave me that gift of being able to get sober during COVID, I think, because I can like literally not have an excuse. Like, bro, I got sober on Zoom. Like, there is no excuse on like how you can and cannot work this program, because I could do it. And I found a way to do it, because I was just desperate enough to do what you guys said I had to do. And as was stated, I thought that me and Christine's, our journeys are so different, but we both have this same thing, and that's alcoholism, dude. And like, when she talked, I heard what she was saying. And they say find somebody that has what you want. I don't know. I didn't know what I wanted. I saw that she was sober and she was being a mom, and those are things I did not know how to do. And and I saw her doing it, and I called her and I said, I want to work these steps. And that's what we did. We worked these steps out of this book, out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We started at the first page, and we worked steps as we came to them. And I was so mad that this is what I had to do finally. I'm like, you are fucking kidding me. Alcoholics Anonymous. But like, the thing is like I clearly wasn't that mad. I mean, I was pretty because I was doing the things. I was a little upset doing them, but I mean, I was so, like I said, that feeling, that's a driving force. That desperateness, that feeling, boy, that'll make you do things you did not think you would do. Um, and she said I had to pray to God, and I didn't understand what the heck. I was like, God. So then I ordered a bunch of books, and I thought maybe I'm a Hindu, or maybe I'm this, or I don't know. And she said, you don't have to know what you are. You just have to be willing to believe that there's a God, that there's a power greater than yourself. And I didn't know how to pray. And so she like painted some boxes with me, and I would write things down and put them in this box because that's the only thing I knew how to do in the beginning, because I just didn't understand. I couldn't do the whole dear God. Like, I didn't understand it. And I know that sounds so stupid, but I didn't get it. I wasn't raised like that. I didn't understand that. I just had no concept of what, but I was willing to do the thing. She said, write down these prayers and put them in this box. I was like, okay. And then pretty soon I could start saying those words instead of writing them down. And today I pray every freaking all the time. I was praying in that seat before I got up here. And asked me if I have any better idea of what God is than I did when I came in. But I can tell you for sure, I believe that I know that there is power. I do know that. There's no doubt in my mind that that's the case. And so what happened was I kept reading this book, and what happened was I kept working these steps, and what happened was days kept going on where I wasn't drinking. And I remembered at SOS one time, because I like have my kid with me, and I'm like, if anyone has, I was like, when they're not doing what they need to do, and I just remember also thinking to myself, like, when does this, like that obsession they talk about will be removed? When is that gonna happen? And I remember Austin Bashore was like, some of us never lose our crackhead energy, but the obsession will lift. I'm like, oh, that's great, So I think I still have that crackhead energy. That's all right, perma-fried to my core. But that obsession was lifted. 9 months in, I'm not gonna sit here and bullshit anybody. Was I crawling my way through those 9 months? No. But I do remember around like 8 or 9 months, all of a sudden being like, holy shit, I didn't think about drinking today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, are just like, oh my gosh, it's not ruling my thoughts. Like, I'm just like carrying on. And that was a big deal, and I started reading this book and working with newcomers like I was dying, because that's what it tells me that it's life or death. It tells me that if I'm not, the best way to ensure my sobriety is with working with a new person. So me and Danielle were like kidnapping girls from SOS and like going to Big Mamas and be like, do you want to read the book with us? And they were like, sure. They're like a month less sober than us. But we were doing it. And like, that's what early sobriety looks like. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm reading this book. And I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm praying. I'm willing to do these things that I don't really know what's going on. But like, thank God for sponsors that are telling you like, hey, this is what we're doing, and like, thank God for meetings where I can come and sit down and hopefully shut up sometimes and listen to, your guys' experience, because I would have told you I was the most hardcore bitch in here, for real. Like, not joking. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm more hardcore than I used to say that in the beginning of my meetings. I know, but I'm just like super hardcore. And they'd be like, what do you mean by that? You know what I mean? And I'm like, if you don't know, then you're not as hardcore as me. But, like, I just really believe that, like, I was just, and really, God, really, that inventory, I was just scared to freaking death, guys. I was just so scared of you guys, seeing me. And I was scared that I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just so freaking scared. Your fear inventory. What are you scared of? Not shit, is what I told her. She's like, what about like if a burglar comes in? I'm like, I wish the motherfucker would. Like, like, that's the persona I'm trying to put on. And which is hilarious because it has been brought to my attention. This week we had to go to a funeral because this thing, it's like we say it's life or death, and I feel like sometimes we're so dramatic. It's like, God, we're so dramatic, life or death. But it's like, no, like, really though, you know what I mean? Like, we think we're using, or we think we're doing something and we die, dude. Like, that's real. Like, that really happens. And we were at a funeral this week. And I was like, I just like, so stupid. I don't do death. I don't really like do death. And like, I just like don't do emotions. And like, thank God for people in sobriety that calls her shit. Gigi looked right at me and was like, "You're the most emotional bitch I know. You cry all the time." And I was like, "What?" But it's like, just tells you that like, I'm like, still have this like I said at the beginning, this fear of being like vulnerable. And it's like these things, it's like progress, not perfection. It's like, I have gotten so much better than I was, because it was to the point like where I wouldn't even like let my kid leave my side. And I mean, I had a full mental breakdown when she went to school. I started vaping when my kid went to school. Like, I mean, any way I can, to cope with chugging like a red line and hitting my vape. Like, and it's like, what are we doing? Anyways, but I'm not drinking and using. But like, and sometimes we're surviving like that. Like in the beginning, we're surviving like that. That's the freaking facts. At least I was. But what's crazy is I'm not like surviving anymore. Like I'm like literally living life, guys. Like I'm just like living. I have a job where people are blown away when I tell them that I used to, like, my owner literally used to do meth. I mean, he just couldn't even believe it. And it's like, if you would have seen me so many years ago, there would be no question. You would be holding your purse and locking your door, and like, there would be no question if I had had done that meth. And at the end of my drinking too, I always feel like I have to say this. At the end of my drinking, when it all came down to it, I had this idea that like drugs, bad. Don't do drugs. Those are illegal. We're not going to do those. We're just going to drink. My disease is like, cool. Cool. So you're not doing drugs anymore. Game on. Like, it's like I had this delusion that if I was only drinking, things would be fine. And it's just like, that's just not my experience. The book says that nothing in no form at all can I safely use, like at all. It also says that I have a daily reprieve. And so what that looks like for me today is like praying and meditating when I can, and helping other alcoholics, and like doing this program. And like every day, like I said, if you'd have told me like the days were going to turn into years, like what it's mind blowing. And if you'd have told me that those fears that literally ruled my life, I don't need no man, I don't need, and come to find out, I don't need a man, but I'm really happy I have one that I got to marry and that puts up with my crazy, and I don't have to live in fear all the time anymore, because I have this God. This program introduced me to a higher power that I can like not all the times do great, but I can like hand my life over to. And like that ensures my sobriety. Coming to meetings ensures my sobriety. Helping the newcomer ensures my sobriety. It's like not just like one thing, because in my experience, if I'm just doing that one thing, it's not sustainable. Not for me. I have to be doing all the things all the time. And it is very apparent in my life when I am not. I cannot thank you guys. Like, I feel like I'm at the Golden Globes. I cannot thank you guys enough for real. Like, with what? Like, you guys get it. You guys get my crazy, you speak my language. Like, I don't think that there is anybody that I can go and laugh and cry about some real sick shit with, that like I can in here, and that I can, it's okay, like say things like so like it's okay not to be okay all the time. Like just because we're sober, like we're still human beings, and like we're gonna feel some stuff and we're gonna go through some shit. It doesn't say that I'm gonna get sober and life's gonna be freaking great. It says that life's gonna happen and that we're gonna know what to do. And if I don't know what to do, thank God I have a sponsor and a God and like a fleet of you guys around me that can do it with me. So I'm gonna read my favorite thing in the book, because I always read it, because it's frou frou la la, and that is everything I was against when I first got here. But it's from a vision for you. Maybe. Hold on. Where's a vision for you? 140. What is it, Matthew? What is it? 152. It says, yes, there's a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. Love you guys. I'll pass.